Sixth of the year. He is 2 for 4, a single and a homer. And he will lead off the bottom of the 10th with Ketel Marte down there at second as the time runs.
He belts it deep left field. We're going home, folks, and we're going home winners.
Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plugs Arizona Diamondbacks recap for April 29th through May 12th, 2024. I'm Chris Patrick, that's VSP Tallman, and we're here to break it all down for you. In the last 2 weeks, the Arizona Diamondbacks have gone 6-6 over 4 series. This puts them at 19-22 on the season, fighting to get back over 500. We start this recap at home with a 3-game series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The series was split a game apiece to start, thanks to a walk-off 426-foot home run by Christian Walker in the 10th inning of Game 2. And with the chance to take a series over the Dodgers, the Snakes fall flat, getting shut out 8-0 in Game 3, despite having 7 hits in the game. Next, the Diamondbacks would host the Padres at Chase Field for another 3-game series. Outscored 20-2 in the first 2 games combined, the Snakes were able to rally the troops and won the final game of the series 11-4, with a strong performance coming from Jake McCarthy, who had 3 hits and 2 RBIs on the day. After that, it was time to hit the road and head east. The first stop of this trip was in Cincinnati to take on the Reds at Great American Ballpark. A well-fought series, and despite a pair of close games, the Diamondbacks were able to take all 3 games and swept the series. And finishing out the last 2 weeks, the Diamondbacks head to Baltimore for a 3-game series with the Orioles. Unfortunately, the Snakes weren't able to keep up their momentum from the previous series and dropped the first 2 games in this one. But once again, the Diamondbacks were able to get it together and avoid the sweep, winning Game 3 confidently 9-2 behind a decent outing from Zach Gallen, who pitched 6 innings with 4 strikeouts and 2 earned runs. But now let's pass it over to Tallman for his thoughts on the last 2 weeks. What you got?
Yeah, Chris, 6-6, staying alive, baby, staying alive. Got our first sweep, which is great, but let's not get too carried away. That was a tough stretch of games. You had to play against the Dodgers, then you had the Padres come to town, and the Padres just got better. They added Luis Arraez. But another note, 8 of our 19 wins this season have come against the Rockies and the Reds. So our competition is only going to increase. We got to get going here. And it's good though, right? We're 19-22. We're creeping up on 500 on the season, and that's great to say for a team that doesn't have their starting center fielder, doesn't have their starting shortstop, and only 3/5 of the starting rotation. But hey, what I've been seeing this last 2 weeks, man, or the whole season really is we're having a lot of struggles from players that this team relied on heavily last season. You know, you got Carroll off to the really slow start. You know, thank goodness he's starting to rebound. Lourdes Gurriel, the guy came out guns blazing this season, but I'm telling you, man, am I the only one that thinks like he's an automatic out recently in games? And then you got the absolute disaster Kevin Ginkel has put on the field his last couple of showings. Starting to be concerned about him. He no longer has that excuse that he has to be the 9th inning guy, the closer, with Sewald coming back. I was thinking him going back to his normal position in the 8th inning would help him out. But, you know, he really did him no help in that game last Saturday against Baltimore, where it ended up going to extra innings and the Dbacks ended up losing that game. So what do we see out of Torrey coming up? I mean, we've already seen him be very, very quick to switch up the lineup. I mean, you saw Carroll batting 7th, 8th in that lineup. He was trying out different things. Does he try out a different bullpen rotation? We've seen some promising things from Joe Mantiply. We've seen Justin Martinez come in and throw some absolute gas, struck out 5 batters in Baltimore on Friday. So do we see maybe a Martinez Mantiply in the 6th, 7th, and then see Thompson in the 8th and then Sewald in the 9th? Who knows? But this is a different team. You know, it took me a little bit to understand that, realize that, as a fan, obviously on paper, this is a much different team, but this is not your create chaos team. The Dbacks are bottom 3 in steals in the major leagues right now. We finished 2nd in the major leagues last season. So what's going on? I want to see Carroll, get out there and be more aggressive on the base pass. Obviously don't run into any outs, but a perfect example. Another incredible young player with, elite speed is Elly De La Cruz that we just saw with the Reds. This guy in one of those games, De La Cruz gets on first. immediately steals second, and then immediately steals third. Obviously, the Reds, they lead, or they're either first or second in steals in the major leagues, and he's a big part of that. But, I want to see this team get back to that as well. Granted, we don't have a lot of the same speed with Thomas out, and obviously McCarthy not being an everyday guy recently. But, hey, I'm very optimistic. I mean, this is such a long season. Baseball season is a marathon, not a sprint. I don't want to keep saying, let's wait till we get healthy, we're going to be great. But where we're at right now and a chance to get back to 500 with some very favorable matchups coming up. I know you're going to go through them here, but we got the Reds again. You got the Tigers, squeezed in a little competition with the Dodgers, but then we're going to finish after that with the Marlins. So there's a very good chance in the next 2 weeks, this team could be over 500. We can get another one of our starting pitchers back, as well as some key starters back in the lineup. And I think this team's going to be just fine.
I think you're absolutely right there with the fact that we have a good opportunity in the next 2 weeks to right the ship even more, especially as we're starting to get some players back. I know we got to pump the brakes on some of these guys, but having Sewald back in the bullpen is huge. I know he got a little bit beat up in his first game. I think he gave up a home run, but, we'll take it. We know what Sewald can do. You mentioned Justin Martinez. The dude can throw some absolute heat. We were talking about it a little bit. We saw him last year, and he just didn't have the command, and that's why he ended up getting sent back down. But it looks like he's worked through some of those issues, even fanning 5 in a single appearance recently. The guys are starting to get healthy, but we still have a long ways to go. It's really easy for us to get on here and say no excuses, but health is a serious issue. Now, what we can be critical of are the guys that are healthy, not quite doing their jobs right now. I know we all love Corbin Carroll. I don't know if you want to call it a sophomore slump, and maybe we don't know how long it will last. He has done better as of late, but still on the season, batting under 200 at just 197. I can't wait for Geraldo Perdomo to come back. I mean, the revolving door that we've had at shortstop this year, doing it by committee, having guys play out of position, has been absolutely detrimental, not to mention the help we could use from his bat. I mean, we had to send down a guy like Jace Peterson because he sucked so bad. In his 22 at-bats in the majors this year, he was hitting a dismal .045. Just one hit, man. Absolutely terrible. I would like to see him never be back on this major league roster, but that could be wishful thinking. You also mentioned Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hitting a massive cold streak. In the last 2 weeks, batting just 160 with 8 hits. It's not going to get it done, especially when we put our necks out there to bring you back after your big farewell and all that. Just seems a bit crazy to me. And lastly, I mean, Ketel Marte, absolute stud. If we were to do a player of the recap, it might have to be him, and he might be the only one. He got a hit in all 12 games in the last 2 weeks, including 4 home runs. Man, at least someone can hit the ball. I just can't emphasize enough how badly we need this team to get healthy, especially on the pitching side. We could really use a starter like Eduardo Rodriguez right now. His return is much closer than Merrill Kelly. I think we can expect him back in June. Rodriguez, that is. Kelly, much different story. We might not see him till after the All-Star break, guys, and that's a big blow. Honestly, though, my last thought is I feel bad for Torey Lovello. He's the one who has to go into every press conference and answer question after question about player health, on top of the questions about the hitting slumps and the lineup switch-ups. So Torey has a tough task, but I like what he's doing, and he is willing to take a chance and mix things up. So I think we'll find that secret formula and get right back on track. But as Tallman had mentioned, let's take a look at the next 2 weeks. We'll stay at home for a 3-game series with the Reds. Next, the Detroit Tigers will come into town for a 3-game series. Just one road trip in the next 2 weeks as we head back to Los Angeles for a 3-game series with the Dodgers. And we'll finish out back at home with a 3-game series against the struggling Miami Marlins. But guys, best believe we're going to keep bringing you a Diamondbacks recap every 2 weeks throughout the season. So make sure you like and subscribe for more Arizona Diamondbacks and Valley Sports action. For VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.